Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope everyone is well. Um, I have not posted in or created anything in quite a while, several months. And, I've had people call me, I've had people message me and say, hey, where you at? Where's your stuff at? Haven't heard anything from you. As I've said many times, that I normally don't produce anything unless I'm inspired or something, hits me. There's an impact that something has on me that sort of dictates that I need to, maybe say something if I have something of benefit to say. And this video is going to be, I want to say, less of me giving commentary, giving sociological perspective or Islamic perspective, but asking some of the hard questions that I think need to be asked. And what sort of sparked this was that we just finished this blessed month of Ramadan, and I ask Allah to accept everybody's efforts and everyone's sacrifice and everyone's dua. Ameen. I can't speak for other masajid, but the community that I live in, they choose one of the nights. Actually, it's the masajid around me. It's not just one. They all seem to do this. So I would assume maybe that's a pattern. But they choose one night to do fundraising because the masajid are not government funded. The masajid are not, supported by exogenous monies, so to speak. So everything is sort of taken care of in-house by the people who attend the various masajid. So long story short, the masjid that I normally go to in my community, and I actually had to call to confirm this, they were able to raise $1.7 million in one night. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. $1.7 million. That was the number that was given to me. I didn't go that night, so I don't know. So I had to call and verify. Another masjid that's in our vicinity, they were able to raise right at 500,000 from the community alone. Here is my question. And again, this is going to be less commentary from me and more wanting to hear feedback from all of you. Where does the African American Muslim fit into the future of Islam in America? Where do we fit in economically? Because it's people who have the money to support the masjid, to fund the masjid, who often get to determine policy. They get to determine speakers. They get to determine what's being disseminated from the mimbar. They get to determine just about every aspect of the masjid because they're the ones who's funding it. Where do African Americans fit into the direction of the various masajid that they belong to? And it doesn't have to be, I'm not necessarily speaking in reference to predominantly African-American masajid, but spread out the masajid that you go to. How much influence do African-Americans, who are the indigenous Muslim of this country, how much influence or say do they have in policy, in direction of the masjid? Where do we fit into Islam in America educationally, Islamically educationally, as far as qualified teachers, qualified students of knowledge? And I don't mean just in the Philadelphia area or just in Detroit or I'm talking about big picture, big picture. Where do we fit in? Where do African American Muslims fit into that? Because it seems to me that oftentimes in these more affluent masajid, that we're sort of like the little cousin or that redheaded stepchild that, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, glad to see you. No, you can't marry my daughter. No, you can't give the khutbah. No, you can't determine policy, but hey, we're happy that you're here. I have a problem with that. Where do we fit in economically? Where do we fit in educationally? Where do we fit in regards to, and I think I said this before, policy and determining the direction of the masjid? We live in America. America is a capitalist society. So if you have the funding for people to donate $1.7 million, and I'm sure that's not uncommon to these affluent masajid all over America, again, where does the African American Muslim fit into the equation? On what level and in what aspect of the existence of the masajid and the existence of the community, to what level or to what degree do we contribute? What do we contribute besides being a body in the masjid? And I'm asking these questions because I want to hear from the people. I'm seriously curious where we're at. I'm curious where we're at with this. Do we think about this? Do we even think to that degree, or are we just too busy struggling and we go day by day and in the hopes that things are okay? Where are we at with it? Specifically the African American Muslim. And, if you've looked at my channel, I cover so many different topics in specific to the African American Muslim. I deal with identity. And I think that identity is a massive issue for us, that we don't have an identity. We don't have a connection to a landmass other than America that we are cognizant of, that we are conscious of, that we are pulling from that and connected to that. There are aspects of the African American culture that have residual parts from Africa. There's some residual things, but it's not really anything that I think the average Black person would be able to articulate, would be able to verbalize and say, yeah, well, we as a people do this because of that. We don't really have that. So identity is a problem for us. And I just had this conversation with another brother. If you look at the brothers who follow the Jamaat Tabligh from the subcontinent, you come to find, or you will find, that they tend to dress like they're from there. They sort of speak. Their speech pattern is like they are from there. The food that they eat the food of the people from that area. If you look at the brothers who studied in the Khalij area, they tend to dress like they are from that area. They tend to follow the scholarship of the people from that area, and they oftentimes will not go outside that box. So we tend to clamp onto or cling to whatever geographic location that we tend to study from. That's the culture, that's the language pattern, that's the clothing, that's the food that we tend to cling to, and then we imitate that, but don't really have our own. This is a deep topic. Culture and identity is a deep topic, and I'm not going to be able to hit all aspects of it tonight, nor do I really want to. We as African Americans, oftentimes our culture is manufactured. These major corporations, these companies will give the people that we covet, or that is coveted, the entertainers, the ball players, they'll tell them to wear a certain shoe, wear a certain jacket, wear a certain hat. And then, because our morals and values are oftentimes manufactured for us, given to us, and we imitate because we don't really have our own value system. We'll give up all of our EBT money. We'll sell this and sell that just to have that hat that Jay-Z had, or have that hat that, or those shoes that Beyonce had, or that watch that X, Y, or Z had. And we're just following behind. And as I've said before, when we come into Islam how we are. So we bring those various pathologies and mental challenges and depressions and confusion on who we are. We bring that into Islam. So that's why, it's easy for us to, sort of cling to whatever culture that we cling to. And then oftentimes we are looked at as that redheaded stepchild, or that play cousin that, you're allowed to be in the space, but you really are not contributing. You really don't have a say so in the direction of the masajid. You really don't have that. You can come, to dinner, but you have to sit at the kids' table. If you understand my drift. And that's not a knock against anybody. I feel like we as a people need to step up and get it together. But I digress. I don't want to get into too much more commentary. I'd like to hear from everyone else. Future-wise, where do you see the African-American community in 10 years, in 20 years, in the things that I've named? Economics, in education, in strength and cohesion of community, we can even say, political power, being able to politically, get some of the things done that our community needs to have done. When we talk about supporting our schools and our community, many of us know that the funding of the schools comes from the taxes paid by the people in that community. And if a lot of the people are unemployed or have low wage jobs or whatever, that's going to reflect in the level and quality of education that our communities are subject to. So there's a lot that goes into that. The Muslims should have their own school, just like other demographics, other groups have their own schools. And that's no problem. I have no problem with that. But we should have that too. And I'll leave on this. And I asked my friend, he's a doctor. I asked him this question. I said, where are our affluent masjids at? I'm talking about African Americans. I don't mean the ones in the hood, the ones that are kind of, they're small and functioning and, they're above water. But I'm talking about, where are the ones that you can see it and it's big and it's beautiful and it's well funded and organized and well run and it's upon the Quran and the Sunnah? Where? And I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm asking where. Where are they? Because I'd like to go visit one. I'd like to go see one. I'd like to see what the model is. Make that the model maybe for the rest of us. I was recently in Dallas, Texas, not recently, but a while back, I was in Dallas, Texas, and the masajid down there, the ones that I went to are huge. They're big. They have schools connected to them. They have they have curriculum. They have, it's clean. It's lots of programs. There's sports for the kids. There's a lot of things to do, programs and speakers coming in and, back home in Detroit. There's some nice masajid, but I'm talking, in specific to the African American, where are we at with it? Do we see ourselves making progress in these fields, in these areas? Do we see it? Where do we see ourselves in 10, 20 years? Where do you see your kids, your kids and your kids' kids Islamically in America in the areas that I've named? I'd like to hear your thoughts. I appreciate your time. This thought just came across my head. I was playing Call of Duty. I'm a Call of Duty guy, for those that, if you know, you know. I was playing Call of Duty, and that thought just hit me like a meteorite in my head. And I had to turn the game off, and I came over here to produce this video and ask these questions. And I think that the input from the people, I think, is very valuable. It's very valuable because we're not a monolith as African Americans, and we're not a monolith as African American Muslims. You have professionals, you have those who are in trade, you have those who have specialty and expertise in all various fields. I'd like to hear what you think or where you think we're going collectively as African American Muslims in America. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.